For decades, rumors have circulated about government-suppressed evidence of extraterrestrial contact. This video claims to expose a series of classified alien sightings, allegedly kept hidden from the public eye. From military encounters to top-secret documents, we'll explore purportedly leaked information that could challenge everything we think we know about our place in the universe. But in the realm of ufology, separating fact from fiction is crucial. We'll examine these sensational claims, their origins, and the debates they've sparked in both scientific and conspiracy-oriented communities.
Have the mysterious beam. Pretty recently, scientists explained that they captured a mysterious beam of energy that was coming from the star that is the closest known star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri. This star is small and low mass and is located around 4.2 light years away from us. The thing about this star is that it has one rocky exoplanet that is 17% larger than Earth in its habitable zone, which would make liquid water a possibility on the planet. This planet's habitability has been disputed throughout the years, but this signal could be a sign that it may be even more habitable than any of us know. Scientists explained that the signal shifted while it was being observed, which mimicked the shift caused by a movement of a planet. They're taking extra precautions to figure out what exactly caused this shift in case it was some sort of mundane source. It will, of course, take some time to figure out, but it's all very exciting. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Venus cloud. Last year in September of 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited and skeptical of some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. Firstly, can we just take a second to really think about how cool of a job an astrobiologist has? Anyway, the new findings were pointing to the potential of the presence of phosphine in the clouds. Phosphine is a rare and usually poisonous gas that on Earth is basically always met with the presence of living organisms. Venus hasn't really been top of the list of choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature and pressure and the sulfuric acid clouds, but this evidence could prove to say something otherwise. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth, and while this isn't concrete evidence of space bugs, it will at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life even in the most unlikely places. And hey, maybe it is space bugs. In our number 8 spot today, we have Oumuamua. Okay, so this is one piece of evidence that actually has scientists fighting over what is going on with it. So a few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and they called it Oumuamua, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. But upon closer examination, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate started, because they just don't know why. Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that is being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature, but in August of last year, Avi wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what's going on behind this one. In our number 7 spot today, we have the NASA Viking experiment. This is one of the more debated ones on today's list, but that does not mean it isn't evidence. In 1976, NASA's Viking landers tested the soil on Mars and found some chemicals that could be attributed to signs of life. The soil was mixed with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients and then tested for the production of radioactive methane gas. The test ended up receiving a positive result, which could indicate that something in the soil is metabolizing the nutrients to produce the gas. Despite further efforts, there still hasn't been any life found, but one of the scientists who worked on this original project, and others as well, stand by what they found and argued that the technology at the time wasn't advanced enough to find the key evidence of life. Hopefully with the new Perseverance rover that landed recently, we'll be able to find the signs on Mars that we have been looking for. In our number 6 spot today, we have black holes. When we think of black holes, we usually think of how absolutely terrifying they are, but that may be changing. There has actually been the discovery of a planet that is floating around a black hole. The forces around the hole are also providing heat for the planet as well, but there is one catch, and that is the fact that the planet needs to orbit at the speed of light. This would mean that a second on that planet would be hours on ours, which is kind of difficult to comprehend. The planet would have to be in what is called the Goldilocks zone though, because if it's too far from the black hole, it'll be too cold and there won't be any liquid water, but if it's too close, it will of course be sucked into the black hole by the gravitational forces. It's definitely a pretty crazy idea, but it is possible that there could be some life in this situation. In our number 5 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. Another piece of controversial evidence that came from Mars was announced in 1996. NASA scientists announced that they had potentially found what appeared maybe fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. It is likely that this rock came off during some sort of Mars collision and just casually floated around the solar system for 15 million years before landing in Antarctica in 1984. Just casual space stuff. After analyzing the rock, it was revealed that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineral magnetite, which is sometimes found in the bacteria on Earth. And upon further analysis with an electron microscope, it was claimed that there were signs of nanobacteria. Since then, some claim that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and there is a belief that the signs of nanobacteria could have been grown in a lab. In our number 4 spot today, we have UFO footage. Remember last year when the Navy released footage of UFOs, but we were in a global pandemic, so we didn't really have time to freak out about it? Well, let's freak out about it now, because what the heck was captured on those videos? The US Navy released footage last year where they had captured video of some sort of wingless aircraft that was traveling at hypersonic speed. Of course, people are wary to believe that this is true signs of alien life and alien visitors, but the thing is, we simply just don't really know what this is. We know it's not something that is known to us yet, so this could definitely be a sign of some sort of alien life, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In our number 3 spot today, we have this bacterial experiment. So we've talked a bit on today's list about how we tend to think of life only being able to exist on other planets that are similar to ours with a similar atmosphere within a certain distance of a star, but we've also discussed how this more narrow thinking might not be the best scenario. On Earth, most living creatures require oxygen to live, but the problem with a lot of planets is that there's far more hydrogen and helium. Last year, scientists decided to take 2 different bacteria. One was E. coli, which can be found in the guts of humans, and ordinary yeast, which is used in things like bread and beer. With these 2 bacteria, they tried to see if they could live in different environments. When placed within flasks that contained either pure hydrogen or pure helium, they still managed to grow, just at a slower pace. This evidence goes to show that there might be living organisms that we haven't found yet because we are just looking in the wrong places. In our number 2 spot today, we have the fact that they might have died off. This one is a bit disappointing, to be honest, but it basically is just a theory that it's probably pretty likely that there were aliens at some point, but since the universe is so old, they might have already died out. All life and cultures rise and fall, and researchers put together a model last year that would give more insight into the likelihood of this theory. They took things into account like sun-like stars that are not too close or too far from planets that are similar to Earth, as well as how frequently there are deadly radiation blasting supernovas, which of course would prove to be a huge problem for life forms, as well as the time that it takes for intelligent life to evolve, provided all the conditions are right. And once the evolution has taken place, how long would it take for a tool-bearing form of life to then destroy itself? That's a lot of factors to consider, and through all of this, it was found that the highest likelihood of life before ours in the Milky Way emerged around 5.5 billion years ago, which would place that before our planet was even formed. This, of course, would have provided plenty of time for all of the events I just mentioned to have occurred. I hope this one isn't true, because I really do hope that there are aliens out there. In our number 1 spot today, we have Europa. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge to it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes might be responsible for the red color. The surface of the moon is mostly ice, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make the data make sense. There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions and that also have a red and brown color, which could potentially be responsible for the color on this moon. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they are located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they are then flash frozen in place.
So we're starting off with a photo that was was apparently lost for decades, but just resurfaced a few years ago. The Calvine photo, said to be one of the most convincing UFO photographs ever taken. On August 4th of 1990, two men who were working as chefs in a hotel in the Scottish Highlands decided to go for a walk that summer evening in the hills near Calvine. And in the middle of their hike, they spotted something in the sky, this big diamond-shaped object hovering up there. Apparently it made little to no noise as well. They managed to snap this picture here. The hikers sent the image to the paper, but instead of printing it, the newspaper handed it over to the British Ministry of Defence, and they kept it under wraps until 2022, when British journalist David Clarke finally brought it back into the light. After digging for 13 years, Clarke, who teaches at Sheffield Hallam University, discovered that a former Royal Air Force press officer, Craig Lindsay, had a copy of the photo all along, waiting for someone to ask about it. Clarke also had his colleague Andrew Robinson, a photography expert, examine the photo. Robinson found no evidence of tampering or manipulation. So, is this flying object of extraterrestrial origin? Well, Clarke believes it is a genuine UFO, just maybe not an alien aircraft. He thinks it could be the rumored Aurora, a super secret spy plane supposedly built by the US in the 80s.
Next up on our list today, we have a series of photographs of real-life aliens found in 2017 in Peru near the pre-Columbian Nazca lines. Analysis done on the body of the aliens, named Clara and Mauricio, showed that they are at least 1,000 years old and that their genetic makeup is not of this world. Although the findings are controversial, that's to be expected, and widely disputed, also expected, many people believe that Clara and Mauricio are modern civilization's first look at real-life humanoid alien bodies, and they see the discovery as a major scientific advancement in relation to our understanding of extraterrestrial beings. The lead researcher on the case said that the bodies, with 3 fingers on each hand and elongated heads, were found with another, going by the name of Victoria, which was used to conduct the tests that determined the age of the bodies and the genetic material. In the report, lead researcher Musan also stated that Victoria had been carrying eggs inside of her, meaning that it was likely these creatures were able to reproduce offspring, and that Victoria was getting ready to when she died. Whether or not the whole thing is a big elaborate hoax remains to be seen. However, despite harsh criticism coming from Musan's peers and the scientific community as a whole, he continues to maintain the validity of his findings, making this kind of believable.
Take a look at these wild photos. These are some genuinely unsettling images right here. There's a lot of mystery behind these pictures. There's still no definitive explanation for them. All we know is that the photos surfaced about 10 years back. Supposedly, they were taken from a US submarine traveling between Iceland and islands near Norway. Alex Mistretta, a paranormal investigator, started looking into these pictures after they popped up in a French magazine called Top Secret, following a supposed leak. The photos were allegedly snapped in March of 1971 through the submarine USS Trepang's periscope during a regular military and science mission. A guy named John Kalika first spotted the UFOs through the periscope. We don't know who actually took the images. The pics were shared to the public by Alex after he saw them in that magazine, and there were some curious notes on the back of one of the photos. It said official photograph, not to be released, CT, and another note that read unauthorized disclosure subject security certificate SSN 674 criminal sanction. I don't know, what do you guys think of these? Genuine, hoax? I mean, some of these images are pretty insane. I mean, if they weren't doctored in any way.
Next on our list today, we have the McMinnville UFO photographs taken in none other than Sheridan, Oregon, approximately 9 miles southwest of McMinnville by a local farming couple, Paul and Evelyn Trent. On May 11th of 1950, the pair spotted these strange objects in the sky and rushed to grab their camera. They then captured some of the most captivating UFO images to date. It was Evelyn who first noticed the alleged spacecraft hovering in the sky above the farm. She yelled for her husband Paul, who also confirmed the sighting and was the one to capture the images. Paul's father also claimed to have caught a glimpse of the object before it sped off into the sky. don't know why I did that. A third-party analysis confirmed that the photographs were not doctored and that they showed a real physical object in the sky above the Trent family farm, and that the object was sitting at a significant distance from the lens of the camera. So basically, it was proven that it wasn't just some kind of bug flying nearby the lens. Whether or not you believe in aliens, UFOs, or UAPs, you gotta admit these images are pretty cool.
In 2023, the Pentagon released footage that was taken in the Middle East the previous year. The footage was captured on July 12th, 2022, with an MQ-9 Reaper drone. They're still not sure what this object is. The mysterious orb footage was shown to a congressional committee as part of a defense update on UFOs or UAPs. We can clearly see a small round object that looks like it's shimmering as it flies over houses and empty fields. Sean Kirkpatrick, who heads the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the AARO, mentioned that this footage is pretty much all the info they have on this thing. They don't know where it came from or what its purpose was. The Pentagon also disclosed that they were looking into over 650 incidents involving UFOs.
Next up, if we are going to do a video about real alien photos, I feel it's only right to include a photograph of the most famous UFO sighting and interaction to date, the Battle of Los Angeles, or the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, which took place on February 23rd of 1942, just 2 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The night the photo was taken, all of Los Angeles was directed to go under blackout by the US military. After all the lights on the ground turned off, the sky above LA was suddenly lit up by a large handful of strange, unidentified flying objects. The military then opened fired into the sky, and the public watched in utter shock as 1,400 rounds of ammunition fired at the airborne, seemingly extraterrestrial objects appeared to have no effect whatsoever. Smoke filled the sky, and when it cleared, not a single craft was to be found in the sky or on the ground. 5 civilians died after being hit by materials that appeared to have ricocheted off of the intended targets. 3 were killed in car accidents due to the chaos of the event, and 2 more died of heart attacks due to the stress of the event, which was 2 hours long in total. If this isn't legit, I don't know what is. That's pretty crazy.
Next up, we have some mysterious UFO footage that was taken in Wales. So in September of 2016, a police helicopter flying over the Bristol Channel in Wales around 9 p.m. spotted something in the sky. It was only visible on the chopper's thermal camera, cruising at about 106 miles per hour against the wind. Former cop Gary Haseline later released the full video footage, urging the UK government to come forward with whatever they knew about UFOs. Of course, they didn't. Police thought it could have been a drone at first, but the object was moving pretty fast. Faster than any known models at the time. Apparently the thing was picked up by local air traffic control and emitted heat. Haseline stated, "This is verified police helicopter FLIR footage showing an object not seen with the naked eye but clearly seen in the infrared spectrum. It is moving against the wind, so it is not a balloon, nor is it emitting any heat signature indicating a propulsion system."
Next up, we have a photograph taken on May 1st of 1952 at 7:58 a.m. by George Adamski, who claims to have seen multiple UFOs flying over his backyard in Mount Palomar during the 1940s all the way through to the 1960s. Although many renowned UFO experts have been unable to back his claims, Adamski maintains firm in his belief that he was able to capture not only this image of a cigar-shaped mothership flying in front of the moon seen here, but also the image of 6 unidentified flying objects he believes to be alien spacecrafts arising from the moon and flying in formation, which you can now see here. These images gained such notoriety in their time that for a while a rendering of the 6 spacecraft photograph was featured in a postage stamp in Grenada in 1978. Not only did Adamski claim to have taken a number of other images, which were unfortunately destroyed, he also claimed to have communicated with the aliens aboard these ships using symbols, hand gestures, and even telepathy. Whether or not he's telling the truth, I personally believe he would make a hell of an entertaining dinner guest.
This footage was captured in 2004 by Mexican Air Force pilots. They'd been on a routine flight when they spotted several glowing objects on their infrared cameras. They couldn't actually see the objects with the naked eye. There were 13 of these objects in total, flying over the skies of southern Campeche state. This is a solid piece of footage right here. At one point we get a nice long look at the glowing objects flying in perfect formation across the sky, and yeah, I don't know what they are. I mean, I'm not an expert or anything, but the pilots also had no idea what they were picking up and tried to pursue the objects, but they just lost track of them. They flew away at incredible speed. The footage wasn't released until 2010, and ever since, it's been cited as one of the most convincing examples of a genuine piece of UFO footage.
And finally, we have some more video footage coming to us straight from the declassifieds. I'm talking about UFO documents released to the public by the Pentagon after so many years of adamantly denying the existence of such phenomena. On January 15th of 2023, cameras were set up to survey an MQ-9 Reaper aircraft when all of a sudden, an unidentified aerial presence was captured on that same video, moving at speeds unreachable by any kind of modern-day aircraft. It was shocking to say the least, but it actually gets crazier. The object was moving so fast that it appeared to actually disrupt the atmosphere surrounding the craft, leaving behind an atmospheric wake in lieu of a jet stream as it disappeared completely into the sky. It sounds pretty unbelievable, but as I said, the footage was literally released by the Pentagon, who have done a complete 180 on their denial of UFOs and have now actually asked the public to come forward and submit any authentic images or encounters with UFOs or UAPs to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the ADARO. But I would personally love it if you shared any stories you have down below.
Starting us off, we have a story about a massive structure that was found in Antarctica by a former Navy SEAL. So in 2018, this individual who had worked at the South Pole shared a pretty outlandish story with journalist Linda Moulton Howe. He chose to remain anonymous because the information he revealed was apparently highly classified. He said that in August of 2003, he and his team were on a top secret mission disguised as this research reconnaissance trip. Now, during the mission, they came across a large, dark structure protruding from the ice. They all looked at each other and said, "What the hell is that?" and decided to check it out. The structure had large square doors that slid back into the walls when pushed, revealing a long hallway inside. The interior was lit with a mysterious green light that didn't really seem to be coming from anywhere. The walls were also covered in strange hieroglyphics which no one recognized. Definitely a pretty out there story, but as we'll discuss more in this video, given that Antarctica is one of the most remote and unpopulated places on Earth, it would be a pretty ideal location for extraterrestrial beings to operate without being detected. Also, would you go into that structure, or would you just like stay the hell away? I think I don't know, I might have gone in.
Next up, we have the fact that the government is hiding pyramids located in Antarctica, believed to have been built by a secret ancient civilization. In 2016, the discovery of the pyramids was made public. 3 large triangular prisms, one measuring over 1,222 meters, 4,000 feet tall, were found on the continent. That's over 10 times the height of the famous Great Pyramid of Giza located in Egypt, making this discovery kind of a big deal. While the government maintains that the structures are natural and that no records of ancient civilizations in the area exist, the public and us, we know better. The pyramids are too angular to be organic, and so it's highly likely that they are not, but rather were built by an ancient, highly advanced and intelligent civilization that inhabited Antarctica some 100,000 million years ago. Perhaps the Anunnaki? Conspiracy theorists believe that at one point in time Antarctica was the equator of Earth, and so living and building conditions would have been much better. Not only that, but if the government is actively hiding the structures and information about them from Google Earth and other search engines, they must have found something worth hiding. Perhaps some secrets of the universe, the cure for cancer, a renewable energy source. Only time will tell.
The Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or Anita, experiment is a NASA-funded project using a bunch of antennas attached to a giant balloon that flies over Antarctica. It picks up radio signals from high-energy particles coming from deep space that encounter Earth's atmosphere. Now, some signals skim the Earth's surface before reaching Anita, while others bounce off the ice. Now, during its flights in 2006 and 2014, Anita detected some unusual signals that seemed to be coming from beneath the surface, which was strange. The signals should have been coming from out in space. Scientists also used another device called IceCube, a neutrino telescope with detectors buried near the South Pole. An IceCube can detect tiny flashes of light produced by particles when neutrinos pass through the ice. The idea here was that if Anita's signals were from neutrinos, IceCube should also be able to detect them. But after analyzing 8 years of data, no matching signals were found in IceCube. Physicist Justin Vanderbroek from the University of Wisconsin-Madison pointed out that if the Anita signals were astrophysical, they should have been detectable by IceCube, but they weren't. It's a mystery that still hasn't been solved. Some theories suggest that the signals could be from radio waves bouncing through the hidden caverns or lakes in the ice. Some scientists are even thinking these particles might be related to dark matter, which is thought to make up most of the universe's matter but has never been directly detected. But there's an even crazier idea that maybe these particles are coming from a parallel universe, one that is a mirror image of ours, and that's why these signals are coming from below rather than above. Kind of hard to wrap your head around, but point is, scientists are really confused about it, and that's always really cool.
Going back to our earlier conversation about ancient and highly advanced civilizations living in Antarctica, many people believe that beneath the icy continent lies the forgotten, lost city of Atlantis, which makes a lot of sense if you believe the fact that Antarctica was once the equator of the planet. Atlantis was an ancient subtropical city, so it would have been somewhere warm during ancient times, not somewhere that's warm now. To take things a step further, it is believed by many and recorded in Charles Hapgood's book that the people of Atlantis migrated from Antarctica as temperatures began to cool to the Aztec, Mayan, and Egyptian empires in an effort to preserve their peoples and spread their knowledge. This would also explain the similarities between the empires, their advanced skill sets for their time, their teachings, and their archaeological structures. I'm just saying.
Now, I don't think there's anything cooler than the discovery of a brand new species, and in 2021 that's exactly what happened in Antarctica. A team of scientists from New Zealand were drilling in the Larsen ice shelf and actually discovered a never-before-seen ecosystem. They drilled about 1,640 feet into this massive ice sheet in the Antarctic Peninsula using a hot water hose. They sent a camera into the hole where they found this subterranean ice chamber, but soon they noticed their video feed was being obscured, and they weren't sure what was causing the problem at first. They might have thought their equipment was damaged, but pretty soon they realized that zipping through the water were hundreds of little shrimp-like creatures, scientifically known as amphipods. Now, small crustaceans living in the water, it doesn't seem all that exciting at first glance, but this team was very excited about this. They hadn't been expecting to find life thriving this deep below the ice. They'd found a never-before-seen ecosystem down below the Antarctic ice sheet. That's pretty cool. I mean, who knows what else could be living down there?
For this next one, guys, I'm gonna have to take a little liberties with my language so I don't breach guidelines. Let's get into it. Next up on the list today, we have the conspiracy theory that Antarctica is actually the hidden entrance to center Earth. In January of 2019, it was reported by NASA that scientists had discovered 2 craters deep beneath the permafrost of Antarctica that were first discovered by the team in 2006 and are believed by scientists to have been created by one of the many asteroids to hit Earth millions of years ago, and that led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. Conspiracy theorists, however, have a different idea as to what the crater might be, and that is the entrance to inner Earth, where a secret base reminiscent of World War II atrocities lies. If you're not seeing what I'm saying, you might want to pick up a history book, and I'm sure it'll hit ya. Beyond the base, it is believed that a tropical sanctuary dedicated to gluttony and profanity exists inside of the Earth, accessible to only the richest and most elite members of global society.
Speaking of the whole hollow earth thing though, next we have the reports made by American naval officer Richard E. Byrd after returning from an expedition to the South Pole. Operation Highjump, officially known as the United States Navy Antarctic Developments Program, took place from 1946 to 1947 and was led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Now, on the surface, this mission was about establishing a research base and training personnel to work in cold conditions, but could something else have been going on? Operation Highjump was actually, according to this theory, a covert military operation aimed at investigating this underground society beneath the ice. According to this story, he and his team actually flew into this underground entrance to the center of the Earth, where they came across what is often referred to as the Crystal City. Here there were extraterrestrial beings, strange aircraft. It was this entirely different world, and there was lush forests below the ice as well. Now, after having found it, Richard E. Byrd was pressured into keeping quiet about it, and the story didn't surface until years later when his journal was found, where he'd written about his account.
Circling back to the craters for a quick second, some people believe that the two craters located in Antarctica are not the entrance to Center Earth or even an incredibly racist military base, but rather the entrances to a secret alien UFO base. You see, rather than an asteroid, UFO conspiracy theorist Scott Warning believes that a UFO caused the crater when it crashed into Earth and became buried in the permafrost, and that now the crater is being used by the government to house other UFOs and evidence of extraterrestrial life and activity. He also claimed to have seen an unedited image of the crater in which he could see the UFO sticking out, but that now all evidence of the spacecraft has since been wiped from the internet.
Now, you're gonna have to stretch your suspension of disbelief for this one, if you haven't already done that, but I think this is a fun story. So Organism 46b is an urban legend centered around a mysterious aquatic creature allegedly discovered by Russian scientists while drilling in Voltok Lake. So this creature is said to be a gelatinous organism, almost like a giant squid with incredibly deadly venom and the ability to rapidly shapeshift and mimic other marine life. Now, according to the legend, Organism 46b has a unique method of hunting. It can extend a set of thin, flexible filaments from its body to paralyze and then consume its prey. The legend claims that Russian scientists experimented with this Organism 46b, attempting to understand its abilities to potentially weaponize them. Now, these experiments went wrong, resulting in the deaths of several researchers. Then the Russian government covered up the whole incident.
And finally, we have probably the most believable theory that the entirety of Antarctica is actually one big, highly unethical weapons testing facility. Many people believe that the reason for Antarctica being such a highly restricted zone is due to the fact that the world's leaders are using it, in collaboration with some highly intelligent but severely unethical scientists, to create unfathomable weapons of mind control and mass destruction. From explosives far more dangerous than the world's largest nukes, to chips that can be implanted into the human brain or slipped into our water supply to cause unwavering devotion to the world's upper class on a global scale. Basically, whatever you can think of that is terrifying, it's there. And if it's not, they're working on it. It's a pretty scary thought, but considering the track record of governments using secret testing facilities to test out secret weapons of mass destruction, it's really not that far out there.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have organic material. In an anonymous video, there was a point that was made about something that we are actually now watching happen in real time, and that is the mission to Mars for the Perseverance rover that is currently there digging around in the soil. The video stated that Mars may hold signs of an ancient environment environment that may have been favorable to microbial life. Well, that is exactly true, and the reason the rover is there at all. While Mars' thin atmosphere is unable to shield that planet from the high amounts of radiation coming from space now, it is thought that the atmosphere did once act as a better shield, and that the environment of Mars may have once been a great host for life, which is exactly why this mission is so important. This is all interesting because when this anonymous video was first released, it was still years away from the Perseverance mission actually taking place. But now, just a few months ago in September of 2022, there was a huge announcement made in this search for alien life. Recently, the rover has been searching at the site of an ancient river delta, trying to find any clues that might give us insight into the past lives of the planet, and that is when it made its most important discovery so far. A few recently collected samples have been confirmed to include organic matter. This means that the Jezero crater, which likely was once the home to a lake that the delta emptied into, well, it would have potentially had a habitable environment about 3.5 billion years ago. These organic molecules are supremely important because they represent the building blocks of life, like carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And while this discovery doesn't just flat out confirm the past existence of life on the planet, it is one of the strongest clues we've ever received, which is absolutely unbelievable. In our number 9 spot today, we have the planetary system. In an anonymous video, whoever the person is speaking, they draw attention to a nearby star called TRAPPIST-1. The video didn't go too much into detail about this, but I'm here to do that now, so we can all know what they're talking about. While TRAPPIST-1 is a star, the revelation that the video spoke about was that this star has an entire solar system of Earth-like planets. This discovery first came in 2017, and upon further research in 2018, it was revealed that some of the planets just may harbor even more water than Earth does. Some of the planets are a little too close to the star, so the water is more atmospheric water vapor. The ones in the middle have liquid water like us, and the furthest ones have ice. TRAPPIST-1 is now the most thoroughly known planetary system apart from ours, which is kinda cool. While the anonymous video made it seem like there was a full-blown advanced alien civilization living in this solar system, there still might be potential for some form of microbial life that we just haven't quite found yet, and that is very cool. You know, we gotta start somewhere. Microbial life first, little green dudes next. In our number 8 spot today, we have cyanobacteria. For around 2 decades, Dr. Richard Hoover has been studying meteorites that were found in Antarctica, and in 2011 he claimed that he and his team had found evidence of ancient bacteria from colonies that thrived on comets, moons, and other planets. The astrobiologist said that they were able to make this discovery through the use of the most advanced microscanning technology in the entire world. Dr. Hoover sliced open these meteorites and discovered what they call the remains of cyanobacteria, also known as blue-green algae. This type of algae is said to have a unique quality and the ability to thrive even in some of the harshest conditions, which is necessary when talking about surviving the extreme environment some other planets hold, as well as just space in general. Dr. Hoover said that while some of the bacteria he had found was similar to those on Earth, he said that some of the others were completely alien. He said, quote, "Neither I nor other experts who have seen the evidence have any idea what these creatures might be. I believe these findings indicate that life is not restricted to Earth, but is broadly distributed even outside our solar system." In our number 7 spot today, we have the FBI documents. One self-proclaimed member of Anonymous took to the internet to discuss some important FBI documents that are apparently unclassified, just sitting there on the website waiting for people to take a look at their contents. The video claims that the document suggests that we've not only been visited by aliens from space, but also beings from other dimensions. The video does explain that the document didn't originate from within the FBI and rather from a university head, but that the FBI treated the document with the utmost importance, which is certainly interesting. It is also very important to note, however, that this document was sent in 1947. Not sure if that makes the claims more or less likely or credible, but the timing of it definitely seems important, at least to me. While this is one of the things that you have to draw your own conclusions from, in the video it is mentioned that while we are arguing whether or not supposed UFO or alien sightings have really taken place here on Earth or in space, there are real instances of extraterrestrial beings visiting us, but we're just too focused on the debate to open our eyes and see for ourselves. In our number 6 spot today, we have the light shifts. In the latter half of 2015, a Penn State astronomer astronomer named Jason Wright explained that there were pretty erratic and spontaneous shifts in the light that was coming from a newly discovered star. The star sits about 1,280 light years away from us on Earth, and these shifts were very similar to as if something was passing in front of our view of the star briefly before passing through. Scientists weren't able to connect this to any exoplanets or anything like that, which we could understand, and this is what led Jason to quite an interesting theory. He stated that it is possible that the shifts are caused by massive objects passing in front of the star in a kind of orbit, like an array of massive satellites, or a similar kind of structure, like the type of thing that could be produced by an intelligent and civilized life form. Again, like many things, it's just a theory, but a very compelling one at that. In our number 5 spot today, we have the 2023 sighting. The sign of alien life is in the form of a video, and this video was taken very recently on January 22nd this year, 2023. The video was posted to Reddit by a user called MaxKeller96, and with the video they gave some context. Quote, "My sister, dad, and I were out hiking near Picket Post when one of us noticed something glimmering near the mountain, so we stopped to look at it. All I could really make out is that it was a small bright dot in the sky. After a good 15 seconds of staring at it just silently hanging in the air trying to figure out WTF it was, I started recording. Sorry it's shaky AF, I could barely see my phone screen and was trying to get a good look at it with my own eyes. It then dropped 2 flare looking things, though my sister swears she counted at least 3, and then it instantly sped off, heading southish. Up until that point, I thought it might have been a helicopter or a drone, as there's a lot of military Air Force base stuff out here, but there is no effing way anything can accelerate that fast. We all lost sight of it nearly instantly after the video cuts, and we were all properly freaked the F out about it. I've replayed the video probably 100 times and tried showing it to everyone I know, and no one had any idea what it could be other than a super high-end drone. If you think you know, please let me know." After watching the video also probably 100 times, I can definitely say that I had no idea what they saw that day, because I also really don't think it's a drone. Also, I just have to say that this video even gathered people together on Reddit. And that's no easy feat. Redditors are ruthless and often very skeptical, and still people are pretty on board and confused over what this could have been. In our number 4 spot today, we have the etheric planet. There is a claim that not only have we been visited by some sort of extraterrestrial beings, but that these beings that have apparently been visiting us are coming not from a planet as we think of it, but rather some sort of etheric planet that interpenetrates with our own, but we're just unable to perceive. Apparently, if you're a student of esoteric matters, these concepts will make a lot more sense to you, or so this anonymous video claims. These alien beings are apparently able to make a conscious decision to enter our plane, and in that same respect, they are able to make a decision to disappear from our view. They are visiting us as they are thinking about settling here on our plane, and that they are coming here peacefully. During these visits, they are also said to have technology that would destroy any sort of attack made on them, so it is advised that if they make themselves visible to us, we do not attack or make them feel threatened. I'm not so sure about this one, but at the end of the day, I am certainly no student of esoteric matters, so maybe it's just something that my brain cannot comprehend with the knowledge I currently have, you know? I'm on one plane, I gotta get on another level. In our number 3 spot today, we have the witness testimony. Speaking of alien visits, another person that Anonymous pointed out as a good source to listen to was a man named Dr. Brian O'Leary, who is a former NASA astronaut and Princeton physics professor. Apparently, he stated that there is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been monitoring us for a very long time, and that their appearance is bizarre from any type of traditional, materialistic Western point of view. He also apparently said that these visitors use the technologies of consciousness, they use droids, they use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems, which seems to be a common denominator of the UFO phenomenon. I obviously have no idea how I could possibly substantiate these claims, but they certainly are interesting regardless of what you personally believe. This could, of course, just be nonsense in order to stir up the masses, but it could also be someone who's finally telling us all the truth, but maybe were just a little too skeptical to listen. In our number 2 spot today, we have Enceladus. This small moon is often referenced when people begin to discuss the possibilities of alien life, and for fair reason. It was discovered that this moon has hydrothermal processes going on underneath its crust. To us non-scientists, that means next to nothing, but what if I said that that means that it just might have all of the requirements for life, and that it is becoming a greater possibility that we might actually find microbial life there. Basically, this moon has an icy shell for a surface and then a rocky interior, but between these two layers is a warm ocean, and this ocean is where scientists think life is most likely to be. This discovery came almost accidentally when the Cassini orbiter arrived to Saturn in 2005, and it found water plumes shooting out of the cracks in the surface of the moon, which made scientists realize that it just may be geologically active. Through more research, and by flying the orbiter through the water, by the time 2015 rolled around, scientists knew that it was holding all of the keys to life. While this moon was never the original focus of research, it quickly took over with its very exciting potential. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Venus cloud. A couple years ago, in September of 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited and skeptical of some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. The new findings were pointing to the potential of the presence of phosphine in these clouds. Phosphine is a rare and usually poisonous gas that on Earth is basically always met with the presence of living organisms. Venus hasn't really been the top of the list of choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature and pressure and the sulfuric acid clouds, but this evidence could prove to say something otherwise. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth, and while this isn't concrete evidence of space bugs, it will at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life, even in the most unlikely places. And hey, maybe it is space bugs. I don't know.
Well, we gotta start off with what everyone kinda hopes to be the case. Aliens. Either aliens that pose a threat to our safety that we want to stay away from, or aliens that the government wants to cover up. One theory is that during Apollo missions, astronauts encountered extraterrestrial beings or evidence of their existence on the moon. And if that is true, it's pretty awesome for one, but would also have some pretty serious implications for humanity. Implications that NASA and the government may have figured we just weren't ready for yet. Some believe that governments and space agencies have deliberately kept this information from the public to avoid widespread panic. They may have also found advanced technology on the moon they didn't want falling into the wrong hands. There have been testimonies from former astronauts hinting at unexplained encounters, and that's not even mentioning all the supposed whistleblower accounts about secretive government operations with extraterrestrials here on Earth. So the fear of exposing such a big secret may be one reason why astronauts haven't returned to the moon in such a long time. If we really do end up returning in 2026 though, maybe some secrets will finally be revealed, but sadly, I doubt it. So speaking of the possibility of strange structures on the moon and possible alien encounters, enter Scott Waring. Scott Waring, an enthusiast in all things extraterrestrial, has posted tons of videos and images of things he's spotted in images and videos, including stuff on the moon. He's posted tons of videos on YouTube where he zooms in on lunar craters, pointing out strange shapes that he insists don't fit the bill as just natural rock formations. He thinks they look like structures or even spacecraft. One of his finds is a curious formation in the Zeeman crater on the far side of the moon. It looks to be a rectangular type of shape, almost too perfect to be anything but artificial, according to him anyway. Waring and other conspiracy theorists have speculated that it could be an entrance to an underground alien base. Kind of see looks like steps there, right? Waring also alleges that some of these structures he's identified mysteriously vanish from future scans of Google Moon, making him think things are being covered up. Either the images are getting scrubbed from Google, or the objects are mobile in some way and are just flying away or like closing up. But are these just cases of the human brain perceiving familiar patterns or shapes where none actually exist? I gotta say, in most of these cases, I think so. I do believe there are aliens out there. I also think there's a high probability they've interacted with us, but I'm not too sure they have bases set up on the moon. But What do you guys think? Let's talk more about mysterious objects and structures on the moon. Anyway though, maybe you'll be convinced. Could astronauts have come across alien structures or artifacts on the moon in previous missions? Remnants of some ancient civilization or evidence of extraterrestrial activity up there? There have been other anomalies captured in photographs from the Apollo missions. Unusual shapes and formations that look to be artificial rather than natural. Again, if stuff like this was found, governments and space agencies might be hesitant about returning to the moon out of fear of what they might find. Uncovering evidence of past or present extraterrestrial civilizations could be dangerous. We may just not want to poke the bear until we're ready to deal with it, which is why we haven't had a plan in motion to return until now. One example of odd structures on the moon is this image here, which was taken on an Apollo mission. Formation is often referred to as the castle. This is probably the image that got most people thinking about possible alien structures on the moon. It does kind of look like three pillars or columns holding up what looks to be a tower. And what's intriguing is that this structure looks brighter than its surroundings. So again, what do you think? Is this just a trick of the light, or could it be something more? Here's a weird one. So anyone a fan here of mystery goo? Feel like that's something you want to mess with? No? Well, apparently there's some on the moon. China's U2 rover, part of the Chang'e 4 mission, made a strange discovery on the far side of the moon. It was a weird jelly-like substance. This strange material was found inside a small crater called von Karman, and it looked different from the usual dusty lunar soil surrounding it. The rover stumbled on it when it was busy exploring the moon's surface using its visible and near-infrared spectrometer, or VNIS. And we're not entirely sure what this stuff is. Scientists have thrown around a few ideas, of course. Some think it could be glass that melted when a space rock crashed into the moon, but it could also be alien spit. I'll just say alien spit. I want to go further with that, but you know. The U2 rover started poking around on the moon in 2019, collecting data on the far side where astronauts have never set foot, and that just makes this discovery a lot more interesting. Another possibility about why we haven't gone back to the moon in such a long time is that astronauts could have encountered unforeseen hazards or some other type of phenomena during previous missions. Something that's not necessarily alien, just strange. Space is of course full of dangers, from radiation and microgravity to meteoroid impacts and solar storms. It's possible that Apollo astronauts encountered threats beyond what they were prepared for, and quite possibly beyond what they could even explain. So this one is a bit more esoteric, I know, but I'm just throwing some ideas out there. They may have seen something they just couldn't wrap their heads around. Horrifying, but beyond recognition, almost Lovecraftian. Something that made them never want to return. Of course, other than that though, there are the more well-documented dangers, like the harrowing experiences of Apollo 13, which narrowly avoided disaster after an oxygen tank explosion. There are also the long-term effects of space travel on human health, like radiation exposure and bone loss. If astronauts encountered unknown dangers or phenomena on the moon, space agencies would obviously be a lot more cautious going forward. So maybe they prioritized unmanned missions for that very reason. Here's a more cynical idea though. Maybe the moon holds strategic importance for military purposes. Maybe landing on the moon wasn't as much about humanity reaching the stars as it was about gaining control over a valuable piece of rock. I mean, the space race was happening during the Cold War, after all. The Soviets and the US were desperate to get up there. Could there be covert operations that have been going on the moon? Could the moon be in the process of militarization? Advancements in technology have made space-based weapons and surveillance capabilities very feasible. If governments have indeed set up military installations on the moon or are planning to do so, the implications would be huge. And because of how sensitive military operations are and the potential for geopolitical tension, governments may be reluctant to publicly come forward and disclose their activities up there on the moon, not wanting to reveal any classified information. Probably the most likely explanation for me though is this one: money. The allure of returning to the moon is of course undeniable, but I mean, it all comes down to what's practical in the end, right? Funding is one of the main challenges for space exploration in general. There have been advances in space technology, but the cost and complexity of lunar exploration are still big obstacles, particularly for cash-strapped space agencies facing competing priorities and budgetary constraints. Developing the necessary spacecraft, habitats, the propulsion systems for long lunar missions requires a lot of investment and innovation. The long-term sustainability of, say, a lunar base is a big obstacle, because I mean, why go back to the moon if all we're gonna do is look around again? The goal is always to take things another step forward, and at this point it would be establishing an actual base up there, and politics come into play. I'll get more into politics in a minute, but political priorities shift and the public's interest in moon missions can also influence government's funding for space exploration. In recent years, there has been a growing awareness as well of the potential impact of human activities on the moon and even Mars. Scientists and policymakers are getting more concerned about the risk of contaminating the lunar environment with all of Earth's little microbes or disrupting delicate ecosystems that may exist up there. There's no doubt that if we keep going the direction we are, that one day we'll colonize the moon and Mars, but we need to develop protocols and regulations to try and minimize the risk of biological contamination. If we don't, there could be big problems. Politics, they get in the way of everything. As more countries get involved in space exploration, working together becomes even more important. But tensions between countries and different national interests can make forming partnerships tough. Issues like who owns the technology, how resources are shared, and how information is exchanged can all cause problems, especially among countries with their own space plans. To make moon missions successful and space exploration in general more successful, countries need to get along, conflicts will need to be avoided, and we have to put aside our petty squabbles and finally come together as one unified force, because I mean, the deeper we get into space, who knows what we're gonna find. But last on the list, we have moon dust, aka lunar regolith, which covers the moon's surface like a fine, powdery blanket. Dust doesn't sound very intimidating, but it can be, at least on the moon. Unlike the dust you find on stuff like that waffle maker, that person who barely knew you got you for a Secret Santa 4 years ago that you only used once, moon dust is a different form of dust. It's not even dust. It's these tiny, sharp grains of sand. It's formed over billions of years from meteoroid impacts, and because the moon lacks any weather erosion, it just stays jagged. So this lunar dust can be a bit of a problem. Anakin Skywalker would hate moon dust. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. But it's more than just annoying and inconvenient. Moon dust can mess up spacesuits, spacecraft, and machinery, potentially causing damage or malfunctions, and accidentally inhaling moon dust would be very dangerous. Moon dust can cause all sorts of respiratory issues.
Starting off our list today with probably the most obvious evidence of extraterrestrial beings having landed on Earth and sharing with us their infinite wisdom. The pyramids, obviously. I mean, have you seen those things? Not only are they impressive size-wise, they're also mathematical marvels. I mean, how the hell could ancient civilizations have created a pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned with true north within 3/60ths of a degree, making it one of the most accurately aligned structures on the planet that encodes its own latitude and longitude with a base perimeter equal to 1/2 of its latitude. Not only that, but the pyramids of Giza's plateau are positioned to represent and align with the constellation Orion's belt. There are many other coincidences, like the pyramids being in line with Stonehenge and the connection between the information found in both the Egyptian and Mayan pyramids, along with the fact that all around the world they all look generally the same, despite being across oceans from one another. I'm just saying, to build all of the ancient pyramids now would be incredibly difficult, and without electricity, motor vehicles, and communication with fellow builders to confirm building shapes, sizes, and purpose, as well as what is written within them, I feel like it's impossible that we could achieve now what they did back then, probably because back then they had some help from some pretty smart extraterrestrial beings. I'm talking about aliens.
So back in 2017, a number of strange mummies were uncovered in a cave in Peru. Now these are not those small doll-like mummies you're probably thinking of. These are a different set of mummies. Apparently there have been some pretty interesting tests done on these as well. The mummies only have 3 fingers and have elongated skulls. A bunch of the scientific community said this was likely a hoax, that the mummies were likely tampered with, but it turns out that may not be the case. They did some imaging tests on one of the mummies named Maria, and the tests revealed that her bones are similar to human bones but have some distinct differences. First of all, there were no signs that her elongated skull had been artificially altered. Maria didn't have any hair or ears, she only had ear canal openings. Each finger has 4 bones, unlike the 3 bones in a human finger, making her hands about 8 inches longer than usual. Her feet have longer toes, each with 4 bones instead of 3. The heel bone of her foot is shaped differently, and radiocarbon dating places the age between 240 AD and 383 AD, meaning she lived around the time of the ancient Nazca civilization. Who knows if this is genuinely a real set of mummies or just a hoax? We'll probably find out within the next, I don't know, few months, weeks, days or so, but interesting for now.
Next up, we have some pretty convincing evidence. Ancient descriptions of spaceships carved within the walls of the Temple of Osiris at Abydos. I mean, the hieroglyphics are clear as day. While some people claim that the spaceship depiction is the result of erosion on the tablet where it had once been inscribed, I'm just not buying it. I mean, I understand there is a piece missing from the corner, but the spaceship image remains untouched and in my opinion unaffected. I mean, look at the other hieroglyphics on this slab. Although this is one of the only places in Egypt where spacecrafts are depicted in hieroglyphics, even this single depiction, combined with everything I mentioned in my first point, along with the fact that ancient Egyptians are often depicted looking up into the heavens and worshipping the stars, I'd say it's a pretty good chance that the inscription was more than just erosion or even abstract art. It's a spaceship, guys. Come on, just look at it.
Next up, we have some recently declassified UAP footage. The video was captured back in 2018, but was just released to the public this month, which at the time of filming this video is June of 2024. The strange object had been spotted flying over a US joint operations base in Iraq, and the Pentagon has officially classified it as an unknown aerial phenomenon, or a UAP. The object was spotted and tracked by a US military infrared radar. It moved through the sensitive military installation before making a controlled descent into a body of water, where it stayed for about 17 minutes, and it re-emerged before taking off at an incredible speed. Something very interesting that a number of viewers have pointed out is how rapidly the object changes color. Remember, the video was picked up through an infrared camera, so the changing of color indicates a change in temperature. And apparently this strange object was rapidly changing temperature, which not only made it hard for the camera to track it, but it was also changing temperature faster than any known object, according to Dr. Matthew Sadagas, a physics professor at the University of Albany. So yeah, one of the most interesting pieces of UAP footage to come out in the last year or so.
Next up, we have Jonah and the Whale, a biblical story about a man who is cast from his ship and then swallowed whole by a great fish. For 3 days, Jonah lives inside the whale, and for 3 days he prays to God until eventually, voila, the whale spits him out. In some versions of the story, Jonah also notices that the ribs of the whale are gleaming bronze. One small fact that might just change everything. It's not uncommon for extraterrestrial believers to attribute instances in the Bible to alien activity, and so it makes sense why many UFO enthusiasts believe that Jonah was not swallowed by a whale, but instead picked up by an alien submarine, a USO if you will, unidentified submersible object with a bronze interior, of course. Fancy.
In May of 2023, a 911 call was made by a man saying he and his family saw something, quote, not human in their backyard. Last year in Las Vegas, a resident named Angel Kenmore called 911 after seeing what he described as a tall, skinny alien creature with greenish color about 8 to 10 feet tall, hiding behind a forklift in his backyard. He said, I looked at it in the eyes and my body just froze like having sleep paralysis. He described the creature as having a, quote, weird looking face, big feet, and big shiny eyes and a big mouth, and added, "I can hear its loud, deep breathing, and its stomach kept moving. He would just stare at me, and seconds later, I could move again." Scott Roeder from Evidence Room, Animation and Exhibits analyzed video taken at the scene using motion tracking software. He said, quote, "All of our results came back as authentic. There's no editing. That is an original video." Roeder scrutinized the footage repeatedly, and using motion tracking software, he showed how a shadow's movement seemed to match the movement of a body attached to a head, saying, quote, "We don't believe it's a floating head. We believe it's attached to a body, and the motion of that head from right to left is consistent with the motion that we see between the slats of the fence." This one's kind of interesting. It is hard to make out what is going on in this video. I see the fence, I see everyone in the backyard. There is a bit of a shadowy thing above the fence, but it's hard to spot. Anyway, interesting story, and the police do say it doesn't seem like the family's doing a hoax.
Next up, we have Pakal the Great's tomb located inside of a highly advanced pyramid in Mexico, halfway across the world from the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, and intricately adorned with inscriptions that appear to depict a highly advanced space rocket. When Pakal the Great passed, he was placed inside a coffin, which was placed inside of a tomb, which was built inside of a temple. Also inside the temple, as I previously mentioned, inscriptions, many inscriptions, but one in particular that I want to focus on, this one. Yes, the one that appears to show Pakal the Great himself sitting in the driver's seat of some kind of highly advanced rocket ship with dials and gears and perhaps even weaponry, suggesting not only alien presence but also discourse among the extraterrestrial races as well. Which also begs the question, did Pakal really die, or is his tomb a monument to his bravery for joining some kind of space war? I mean, I know they found bones in his supposed coffin, but like, those could be anyone's.
Retired Army Colonel Carl Nell just came out with a very interesting statement, saying that non-human intelligence not only exists, but has been interacting with humanity for a long time. He shared this during a live chat at the Salt Eye Connections conference, which focuses on innovative ideas in finance and geopolitics. Now, at one time, Nell was the head of the Pentagon's UFO/UAP task force, and says that the government has been withholding top secret information on aliens. According to Nell, the term non-human intelligence is used by officials to describe potential alien life. The Pentagon has of course denied these allegations. When asked why the government would keep all this stuff secret, Nell basically explained that the government just doesn't have much of a plan in place to deal with them right now, and that they don't want to cause any panic, which definitely makes some sense. But hey, what do you guys think of this one though? Interesting? Just some kind of distraction? Who knows? Leave your thoughts down in the comments.
You want to know what makes me quite confident that my subtle belief in aliens having already touched down on Earth might just be 100% correct? Harvard scientists backing my claims. Yep, that's right, here's some new evidence for you. Aliens have visited Earth because Harvard said so. Yep, Harvard, one of the top universities in the world, has academics running around holding press conferences and saying that not only is it likely that aliens exist and have been here before, but that they are probably still here, living either among us, below us, or even on the moon. The claim comes from a hypothesis pertaining to a study called the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to a concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomenon. That's a mouthful. And the hypothesis itself provided 4 possible explanations for anomalous activity. 1 is an extraterrestrial explanation, i.e. aliens. 3, an unconventional terrestrial explanation, i.e. unconventional explanations that still don't involve aliens. And 4, the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, the result of either aliens or a subspecies of humans that evolved separately from us to be far more advanced, living among us on Earth. It sounds pretty out there, but it's also Harvard University academics who wrote the paper, so who am I to judge? And who are you to judge me? It's Harvard.
And finally, we have some information that is going to be revealed next month at a conference by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. They're set to make what's being described as a major reveal about a case involving unidentified aerial phenomena, materials, from Russia. The event will take place on Saturday, July 13th, so hopefully we'll be able to share some interesting news around then. All we know right now is that apparently mysterious materials were delivered to the home of a Russian UFO investigator. Tests, which were later confirmed by MUFON's US lab, showed that the materials are of unknown origin. Materials can usually be identified based on their components from the periodic table, but that was not the case here. Apparently 90% of the sample couldn't be identified. MUFON Media Relations Director Ron James stated that, quote, "The evidence that supports this story and others that we will share at the symposium could make this the biggest UFO-related news event of the year. We have physical materials and more evidence of non-human technology." So, something to look forward to. Biggest of the year. I was hoping for like biggest of all time, but hey.
Yeah. It's, what? Sorry.
Oh, just the stuff that's going to be revealed. He said it's like biggest of the year. I was hoping for like biggest of all time. But maybe he just doesn't want to oversell it.
Could be the biggest of all time, you
Yeah.
guys. It's not revealed yet.
Exactly.
So when it is revealed, if it's interesting, maybe you'll get another video.
With all that said, we will catch you in the next video.
Cheers. I need a nap.
It's about weird discoveries that fishermen made out at sea. These discoveries are so creepy that they will actually blow your mind. Where did they come from? Click the video now to find out more.